Hi guys and gals, Froggy here. This is my Frigidaire dryer. It's not making any heat. I'm not going to go through the troubleshooting, putting it into service mode, which is those two buttons right there. I've already done that, and maybe sometime I'll do another diagnosis, or maybe you can just look it up on another YouTube video. But I know I'm not getting heat. Everything else works okay. So I've ordered a gas valve kit and also a igniter. I think that's going to fix it. Here's my model number, AGQ7000ES0, and this was made in 3 of 06. So right now it's 24, so it's 18 years old. Holy crap. These are very good washers and dryers, but things do break on them. A new one will cost you, over $1,000, and I can fix this for under $30 probably with plus my labor. So here we go. The first thing on this you have to do is take this top panel off, which is these two screws, which are in the back. So if you can drag yours out so you have access, that's fine. I'm trying to do it just by reaching in back there. They've got these funny little screws. It's kind of a Phillips, but I found that the best way to get some leverage on them is this square-ended driver, which fits just perfectly in there, and it's actually a lot more secure than the Phillips. So I got those two out. I'm gonna need two hands. I'm gonna shove this back, and I think it'll slide right off. Okay, that is step one. I just shoved it and it went back. Now we're gonna take this control panel off, and then we're gonna take the door off, and then we're going to have some access down into that area right there where we need to go. And I've got some parts coming on the Amazon truck sometime this afternoon, I hope. But I'm just prepping this or pre-staging it, getting ready to put the parts in. Now you can see this little square bit that I've got, and a tiny little ratchet. So I'm doing this one-handed, and this is a case where if you have the right tools, this is really easy, and if you don't have the right tools, it's a misery. So okay, I'm gonna use two hands now and get the other screw. So if I can show you just to make the job more difficult, that's a real Phillips screw, and that's the one that takes the square driver, so I've got to use a different tool for this one here. Thank you very much, Frigidaire. So this has more screws. Those two up on the top on the other side, and there's some inside here too. So I gotta get those. These screws are all over the place, so I'm actually gonna start labeling where they came from so I can put them back in the same place. They're all sheet metal screws, but the hole that this made in the plastic is going to be a little bit different from one side to the other side, so it'll just be easier if they all go back in the same place. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 things to disconnect here. These will only go one way. This looks like power, and I haven't unplugged this yet, so I think maybe I need to think about unplugging it, because if you get shorted across this, you could cause damage to yourself or the equipment. Okay, yeah, it's good I marked those because they're identical connections, and so I put black and red on there so it'll go back easier. So that's number two. Number one was get the top off. Number two, now the door. This stays on there, I believe. It might be these two up here. It looks like it's hanging. But there might be some screws down below too. So I'm gonna go look below. Okay, we got two more inside screws holding the front door on. It's right there. And then we got some little plastic clips. It's like alignment clips, but there's one on each side inside here. They're the big ones that I use that square driver on. So we get those. You'll have to disconnect those two because it's easier to disconnect those two right there than to take all the wires off of the door. So just do that. Okay, so these are your gas control valves here, and that's one of the parts that I ordered to replace. And then the igniter is on the end of that tube-like thing right there, and I'm going to check that for continuity also with an ohm meter. And there's where your gas comes in. I'm going to give this a good cleaning, of course. It doesn't really look too terrible. And like I said, everything else is running. Oh, look at, there's one of those screws. Somebody must have worked on this before. It might even have been me. And maybe I dropped a screw and replaced it with another one. Sometimes I don't remember if I've done a job a long time ago. So that's all I can do right now until I get my new parts. I took the clothes out so that I could turn the drum easier. And I'm going to mark the belt with a little white dot. And then I'm going to rotate this around and inspect the belt just in case. It looks pretty good, but I want to look at all parts of it. And I'm not going to replace it if I don't have to, because now that I've done this thing, if I needed to replace a belt in another year or two, it's not going to be that hard to do it. And actually, replacing the belt is a little bit of a PITA. That's why I don't want to do it unless I have to do it. I rolled it all the way around and it looks good. So let's test that igniter, just so I can show you how to test it. I'm going to replace it anyway if one of the ones I ordered is correct part. I got to do that clip over again. I think I interrupted it. The heating element is just a piece of metal that current runs through and it heats up because of resistance and it ignites the gas. So we can measure the continuity through that piece of metal, through those two terminals there. If there's continuity, it means the metal's not broken. If there is no continuity, then something's broken and the element needs to be replaced. So this meter is set up so that if I touch these two probes together and it goes to zero, that's zero resistance, that's continuity. I'm trying to do this one-handed. I'm going to have to do it two-handed. Let's see. You can't see the probe, but it's just over to the right of the camera. So now I'm touching it together. See, it says zero. So that's no resistance. That's continuity. So now I'm going to touch it to those two. I don't know if I can do this and show it to you. And I'm going to touch it to those two terminals there and see if it goes to zero. Okay, I got to put the camera down. Okay, I got a zero, so that heating element is good. Well, as I already told you, if I get a part that's the correct part, I'm going to replace it anyway, because this is like 65% of the problems with no heat. That's an additional 20 or 25% of the problems with no heat. So if you replace those two, you should be good as far as the no heat condition for some time. So right now I'm going to sign off until I get the parts. I'll be back. Well, okay, looks like I might have the right gas valves. Maybe I'm going to take those out. But the igniters all have a different attachment, snap connection, which I might be able to splice in a different connection, but it also has to attach correctly here to this tube. Actually, that's the thing that heats up. So, well, let's do this first. Let's do this one first. You're going to take these connections off. Sorry, here, and these screws off here and here. Okay, we'll do that. Two hands. You know, I've got a correction for you here. This part that I tested is not the igniter. That's probably a thermal overload cutout or something like that. But it was working. The igniter is this one here. Okay, it goes into that hole down there. So I'm going to test that now. Yeah, that tests okay. Same way, if the meter goes to 0, you have continuity through the piece of metal, so it's okay. I'm going to still replace this anyway, even though it's okay. I can figure out how to take it out. I think it's that screw right there where I'm pointing with my finger, little shinier spot there. Okay, so we've got that out. This little tiny ratchet that takes bits on the end of it, you see that little Phillips bit on the end of it? There's no way in 100 years I could have got a screwdriver in there, a straight screwdriver in there, but with this little ratchet I could get it done. Now the other way I could have done it, I suppose, is try to remove this whole piece, back it out, but there's at least one screw there, and I don't know if there's it might be just that one, but anyway, I was able to get that out. And this one, like I said, it tested okay, but I'm going to replace it anyway because it's a heating element, so it'll wear out after it's had so many cycles of heat. And this is 18 years old. Okay? And it appears to be, this replacement I got is like an OEM part. It says SIC on the top, SA registered trademark, and then it looks like it says US. So wow, cool. Okay, I got it started. Be careful. The way the old one comes out, the way the new one comes in, it's a little odd the way it kind of slides up over the top here, this little bracket. So just remember how it goes. Having trouble getting enough pressure that way to turn this with my little ratchet. And I thought taking this out would work. It's just this one screw, but it's also this, looks like a copper pipe or brassy pipe. It's a gas pipe that holds it in place also. So I don't want to disconnect this just to take this out unless I have to. So I'm going to try to keep tightening that up. And it's got to be more tight than that. And then we'll see if I can get that done. Okay, well, we got lucky because this screw head is actually one of those Phillips that also takes a square driver like that right there. So I was able to put the square driver on there. With a square driver, you don't have to have the pressure down on it like a Phillips has to have pressure on it, otherwise it rides up out of the screw hole. So this one, anybody knows the name of this square drive, put it down in the comments. And anyway, I've got it tight and connected up, and then we'll put these valves on. These valves have a little bit of a tab to them. I guess you'd call it a tab. So they just pull apart. Maybe get a little flat blade screwdriver in there and work it easy to try to get that tab to release. But don't break this thing, because then you'll have to get some new wiring. Okay? This new one doesn't have any markings on it at all. It does have a little tab like the old one, and it's the same size, but so the old one has those numbers and letters on it, and the new one doesn't have anything. But I would be 99% sure it's a replacement. It's not OEM though. I would get some channel locks like that to try and take the one with 3 prongs apart. It's harder than the one with 2 prongs. These little metal tabs are delicate, so don't bend them too many times. You might snap one off, especially with this third-party replacement parts. I'm not sure how well made that metal is, but I would press it together with the channel lock to make sure it's pressed on all the way. But just be careful you don't bend it one way or the other. This cover that goes back on, this metal cover, 2 screws, it has a pinhole that matches the pin on each one of these valves. So here, this pin is pointing up this way and this pin's pointing down that way. So make sure your pins are right, otherwise you did it wrong. Well, that's it. The igniter, the valves are in. Now it's just a matter of putting all the pieces back on there. I'll do little tips and tricks if I see any, but I'm not going to really film this whole thing about going back together. Just look at how it came apart and do the reverse. Clean it all good, of course, before you put it back together. Hang in the door. It goes in those slots there, and your screw alignment holes there, and it has those little plastic guide things that really just push into holes in the body part. Once you get the top set up and lined up, you just kind of slam it on there, and it's self-aligning pretty much. And make sure that your tumbler is riding on that felt ring. If that felt ring is damaged, then you should be replacing that too. But the drum rides on a felt ring, and it should turn, not easy, but it should turn without binding like that. Let's put our nice clean lint filter in there. There you go. Okay, so remember what I did. Front door inside, front door top, front door bottom. Okay? Just makes it a little easier to go back together. This is where I tell you, don't drop your screws or drop your tools in there, because then you're going to have to use a magnet or a grabber to get them out, or you'll have to take this off. So do this very carefully. Get the screws started before you start twisting on them. I put some, last time I worked on it, these little twist ties to keep these wires from rubbing here. I would suggest that. So I connected these two, and they can only go one way. And the rest of this goes to the control panel. So we'll put the control panel on now. Oh, don't forget the rest of your front door screws. Okay, time for our control panel. Remember, 4 screws right in the middle there. You got that little post sticking out that's got a thread on the end of the post, and then right there in the middle now. Those are your 2 on each side. Bring your control wire panel, your control wires, your control panel wires through the hole there. And you can connect those up before you start screwing it down. Your power's still off. Okay, I got those all in. I'm going to plug it in now. I'm going to run it before I put the top cover on, just to see if I get heat. Well, it beeped when I plugged it in, so that's good. Cancel. Okay, let's go normal. Temperature high. So on and so forth. Start. We have a spinning drum. Wait to hear click. There's our click. So I guess there's, a delay. That's okay. So now we just wait like 30 seconds or so for it to, that tube that you saw throughout the video, that gets hot or gets very warm, and that transfers heat to the drum, and then the drum gets hot, and then that's what dries the clothes. Gas burning, flame. It's a wonder there aren't more fires from these things with all that lint that I cleaned out. I had a woman that I worked with back in Massachusetts, and she had a dryer fire. Didn't burn her house down, but she had a dryer fire. So I don't know what kind of dryer it was, but it does happen. So I'm going to shut this off. And I can feel here at the exhaust that it's warm. Yeah, that's like, if my body temperature is 98.6, that's like 102, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, but it's warm. Anyway, so it's working. So, give me a thumbs up or a like if this helps you out. Subscribe to my channel if you want more from Froggy. I'm going to put the top cover on. It's just 2 screws. You have to reach in the back there, slide it this way, reach in the back there, 2 screws. So instead of spending $1,000+ on a new dryer, and we have these custom pedestals anyway, which are custom to this dryer, so probably would not have been able to fit a new dryer on top of that pedestal. I don't know. Anyway, for like $25 I fixed it, and now you know how to fix it. Okay, be safe, have fun. Froggy out. Let's go, Brandon.